Hey everyone, this is Mara again, coming at you another movie review. Before anyone asks, yes, I got out of the shower, and my hair is the way it is and all down. Look like the Mexican James Hetfield, like this. Anyway, today's review is of the next M. Night Shyamalan movie. The first one he actually did away from Touchstone, or at least mainstream-wise, because all four of his previous films, if I remember correctly, were released by Touchstone. I know Village and The Signs were, and I believe Unbreakable was too, but anyway, this film has a little controversy at the beginning, which I will address in a couple minutes. The movie stars Paul Giamatti, Bryce Howard, Jeffrey Wright, and Bob Balaban, and the score is done by James Howard. Of course, it is Lady in the Water. Now, the thing about this movie is that there was some controversy when the movie came out because Warner Brothers, if I remember correctly, during their promotion for this movie, they blatantly lied to us, the goers, and made it seem like it was a horror movie. You know, the door to her world is open, blah 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 blah. And using that one scene of Paul, are there any wolves around here? Hyenas? The way they edited it, it made it look like a horror movie. And after watching the movie, I could say that looks more like a recut trailer. It looks more like a trailer like a fan would do, like, what if Lady in the Water was a horror movie? You know, kind of like that one trailer Matt did by combining Chud with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, there's something moving up there. It seems more like something like that. I'm like, Warner Brothers, you really did that. You couldn't market it as what it is, basically a fairy tale type movie. And that's also why it blows my mind why, when I heard about the story regarding why M. Night actually left Touchstone. Apparently, this is what I've read. Apparently, I don't know if it was the draft of the script that was eventually shot, but I'm guessing it probably was, or one of the earlier ones, one that was probably close to final. Apparently, M. Night had it personally delivered to the head of Touchstone Pictures. In case anyone's wondering, Touchstone is owned by Disney, so technically speaking, M. Night worked for Disney before. That's kind of funny. And also, that's why it's funny, because this seems like a movie that Disney would probably release under one of its banners, if not under the Disney name. Because think about it, this could be like a Disney movie for adults, more likely. But anyway, he had it personally delivered, whether or not he actually drove and gave it himself or had someone take it there. Instead of reading the script, I don't know if she was there to get the script or she was gone already. She took her son to a party, and then of course afterwards she didn't like the script anyway, and it was because of that M. Night left. He even said that he didn't think there was anything creative about Disney anymore. Which, if you look at them the last 10 years, you can kind of see that. I mean, some of their best movies have been co-productions with Pixar in the last 10 years. You know, The Incredibles, Ratatouille. I haven't seen Cars in a long time, so I can't comment on that. But in its sequel, usually the least looked down ones. I've heard good things about Brave, though. Toy Story 3, even. And of course, their big money makers have been the Pirates of the Caribbean films, which I am a fan of that series. Though my favorite one is still the first one. Which one, when I get to that series one day, I'll tell you. I'll talk about it. Probably on one video, but it's just that those have just been their big money makers, the Pirates movies, and of course their co-production with Pixar. Other than that, well, except maybe Enchanted, I can't think of any great movies that they've made, because most of their other movies that have made the money have been those direct-to-DVD sequels, and we all know that a lot of them suck. I mean, when they first started doing them, okay, they were okay. Return Your Var, the third line movie, okay, those were good, okay ones. But then now they just keep doing ones that seem like rehashes or pointless sequels. But anyway, I digress back to it. M. Night left saying that he didn't feel there was anything creative about Disney anymore, which I have to say, agreed, that kinda isn't, and like every once in a while maybe, or something like Princess and the Frog and stuff. But for the most part, nah. Anyway, he went to Warner Brothers, and of course, like I said, after making the movie, Warner Brothers made it seem like a horror movie. But like I said earlier, this seems like a movie that Disney should have released. And the thing is, with the head of Touchstone, you didn't like the script for this movie, yet you liked the script for The Village? I mean, I don't get that. Maybe The Village looked better on paper, and maybe I don't know, maybe it looked better on paper than it was executed, but The Village, it sounds more like a story that would have been better told in novel format, where you get the inner monologues, not in movie format. Granted, remember, like I said in my review, I like M. Night's direction in there, but the story could have been fleshed out a little bit better. Here, I have to say, M. Night's career so far, after watching this movie, goes like this. It goes like this. Okay, his first two movies, which I haven't seen, and which I'm probably not going to review for a long time, they're like down here. Sixth Sense, and Unbreakable. No, Sixth Sense goes up. Unbreakable a little bit more. Signs go over a little bit more down. Okay, I'll move a little bit more down. Village down more. For me, he goes back up with it, but with critics and stuff. And it's funny that in between this movie and Village is when people started to call him a hack and like saying, "Oh, he's a bad director." Like I said a couple times, I'm shaking my head. I don't think he's a bad director. If there's anything that he's not so good at, it's his screenwriting. That is what I say fluctuates. So, if you guys don't like this is one thing I actually think I probably should have mentioned in an earlier video, but I think it even more now after watching this movie. If you guys don't like M. Night Shyamalan as a movie maker, explain to me why, from the directing standpoint, not the writing standpoint. Because the writing standpoint, I already say it doesn't suck. He fluctuates at, but like I've said a couple times already, I don't see any complaints about M. Night that has nothing to do with his writing. All of it has to do with the writing. I've never heard one complaint about the directing, and for me personally, I don't have a problem with his directing. He keeps the camera in one place, uses color and lighting like a director should. If there's anything that's questionable about his directing is that some of his casting choices might be off, but maybe he's just going with the best people that he can get or something. But at least he does the leads. He casts good people. Like Signs, he gets Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. Village, Joaquin Phoenix, even though his character's not written good, but like I said, Joaquin did good acting. Then Bryce, she's once again in this movie, which I get to her in a little bit. And then we got Paul Giamatti, likable actors. That's the one reason I'm not really looking forward to the happening, because we got Marky Mark, which I will address that when I get to that review. But anyway, I'm 7 minutes and I haven't even talked about the plot, but I just had to get that part of the video out of the way. But anyway, the plot of the movie is very fairy tale-ish, which is kind of modern day fairy tale-ish, I should say, which is to be expected, because M. Night even openly admitted he based the script for this movie off a story that he told his daughters, and then even at the end of the credits he even says a thing about, should I say daughter, or I don't know if he has to, but his children, I would say. He even admits that this was for his daughter. He tells the story one more time, but then you have to go to bed or something. Anyway, the plot is that we got Cleveland Heap, played by Paul Giamatti, who was a handyman at a Philadelphia apartment complex. And he's been there ever since his family was murdered, which they don't tell you that up front, which I think that's kind of interesting, that we know that something happened to him, but then as the plot goes along, we discover what it is. And I don't remember correctly, but I don't think the killer was caught, which is kind of sad. You really feel for Heap a little bit there. Anyway, something keeps happening with the pool. So, since he lives in the house not that far away from the pool, he is walking one day and he sees some movement in the pool. He goes in and he discovers this girl, played by Bryce, named Story, who is a nymph, which is a human-like creature from the blue world. Which, as we find out in the opening thing, that years ago, nymphs and humans lived in cohabitation with one another. But as humans moved further inland, they lost contact with nymphs, and their societies distanced themselves. But now, nymphs are trying to reestablish that contact and help them. And that is why Story is there. Because she has a purpose. And her purpose is she's supposed to find the specific writer whose book will better humanity's future. And when she does that, she will go home. But she has an enemy in the form of the wolf-like Skrunt, which is basically a wolf-like creature that is... Excuse me. Don't you just hate it when your nose gets like that in the middle of a sentence? Well, as I was saying, a scruff, it's a wolf-like creature with grass covering its back, and it can lay flat, hiding in the grass, and the only way to see it is if you looking behind you with a mirror and you see its red eyes. Anyway, eventually, of course, she gets... they find the author, she helps him, and then of course she has to get back to her own world, and that's the rest of the story. They have to find the people who will help her go back to her own world, because it has to go back in a specific way. Like she has to find, she has to find like a person that can interpret. She has to find a person that can hold off the skrunt, excuse me. She has to find a healer. There's a lot of stuff, archetypal jobs, I guess you could say. And that's all the plot I'm going to go into. But I have to say, I like the movie, as you could probably tell. It's a step up from The Village, as I've said. I like it more or less about the same as I liked Signs, even though, like I said, Signs is a big budget B movie, mostly stemming from the writing. Some of it not being up to scratch, and of course, the acting. This movie, I would say, directing standpoint, M. Night is still on top of his game. Writing, a little bit, I'd say probably a little bit better than Signs in the writing department, and a lot better than The Village, at least in the screenplay fashion. It's probably some of the acting choices that take it down. I mean, Paul Giamatti was great as Cleveland. I'm surprised he didn't even get like an MTV award nomination. Bryce, I liked her as Story. She really did come across as not as a human-like being that wasn't human. She had kind of a coldness to her, which the only thing I can think of to compare it to is like how the elves in Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies are, how they have a little bit of coldness towards humans, and kind of fits for the character of Story. And I have to say, I like Bryce's acting here a little bit better than I liked her in The Village. Like I said, she was one of my highlights in The Village, but here she does a better job, which shows that she grew more comfortable working with M. Night. Let's see the other characters. Let's see, we got Bob Balaban, Mary Beth Hurt, Jeffrey Wright. They do okay for what they're given. And then, of course, we got M. Night Shyamalan as the author character, which, of course, you know, he always has to have a cameo in each of his movies. Doctor in Sixth Sense, Drug Guy in Unbreakable, that one guy who killed Mel Gibson's wife in Signs, on the phone from what I understand in the next movie. I have to say, of the two roles he gives himself where he is a main character, not counting his first movie where he is a main character because I haven't seen it, this, I think, is his better acting performance. Maybe because it's a little bit more better character, maybe because he delivers his lines better instead of sounding like an idiot. Because remember, that was one of my problems with Signs. I'm like, who talked to someone like that after you killed their wife? It was like it was meant to be. Don't talk to him like that. You know that he's going to want to slap you for that, especially if it's Mel Gibson. He'll force you to jump off a building with him. Anyway, like I said, a little bit better performance. Way better performance, actually. Now, if there was any standout character, it would probably be Farber, played by Bob Balaban. And that's because this character, I am totally convinced M. Night wrote as a big middle finger to the critics that really hated his last couple movies. Because I know that Signs, although it had more positive reviews than The Village, it still had people that didn't like it, which I can understand, but like I said, big budget B movie. Village, I can understand a little bit more why people would hate it. More from the story writing standpoint than from the directing standpoint, but it, like I said, big middle finger because he is a critic, and two of my favorite scenes with the character are basically him making fun of movie conventions, like the scene where he's talking about where he just come back from seeing a romantic film. Why is it that they always have to meet in the rain? And then, of course, when he comes face to face with a scrunt, him talking about the stereotypical thing in horror movies. This is usually when a character, usually unlikable, comes face to face with the monster. It's just funny, just the way he delivers it. You can tell he's scared in that scene, but you can also tell that he's really in critic mode. And I have to say, if anybody from this movie deserved an Academy Award nomination, it was Bob Balaban. He should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Not that he would have won, but he should have at least been nominated. That's how good he was, because he was a minor character. Now, the thing that irritates me is that this movie did get some Razzie nominations, which actually won 2 of them, which I don't see. It won Worst Supporting Actor for M. Night, which I can see why they would nominate him for that, because he's not an actor, but he does cameos, but I don't think he deserved to win it. And as Worst Director, I don't see anything in this movie from the directing standpoint, the way that the camera was held, the way the lighting and stuff was done. I don't see anything from there that it basically said Worst Director. I think that the Razzies basically gave that to M. Night just to jump on the hate M. Night Shyamalan bandwagon. And I'm starting to think, I think that's the reason that some people are starting to say he's a hack director, is because they're just jumping on the bandwagon. It's like, oh, the critics are saying it, so it must be true. As you guys know, I always take what critics say, I take it with a grain of salt, and after watching the movies, I'm even taking it more when it comes to people, at least the critics and all them saying it is. Because, like I said, he's a good director to me, and I really do want him to keep making movies until he's no longer able to make movies. And I don't know if I've said this already, but I think the one way that M. Night will be able to show people he actually is a talented director is if he directed a couple movies in a row that he did not write. Because every movie he's directed, he's written, including the movie that shall not be named. But think of it, if he directed a few movies that he did not write, people would actually start taking him seriously again. I mean, it's not like George Lucas, who has no talent. That is a hack. George Lucas is a hack director. The only movie that I think he directed well was the first Star Wars movie he directed, and the only reason that has good performances is because of Gary Kurtz giving the actors motivational speeches. They may take our lives, but they will never take our acting. I know, that was the first thing that popped in my head, but I had to do it. But George Lucas, hack director. Okay, writer, great producer. Uwe Boll, hack director. Michael Bay, he's not a hack director. There's something I was thinking of. I'm close. Not my. Who is it? The guy that directed. You guys should know who I'm talking. Samuel Bayer, hack director. He's only directed one movie, but he's a hack director. Stick to music videos, buddy. I haven't seen any of his movies, but the guy, from what I hear, the guy that is directing Taken 2, from what I've heard about him, he's probably a hack director, but I haven't seen any other movies. But based on what my buddies say, he probably is one, even though I'm not going to say he is. But the ones I've mentioned before, except for Michael Bay, those are hack directors. M. Night Shyamalan, not a hack director. He does what a director's supposed to do. He uses the camera the way the director's supposed to do. He sets up his shots accordingly. He lights it well. It's like he pictures in his mind how he wants the shot to do, and that's what a director's supposed to do. I mean, before he became James Cameron did the same thing. I mean, that's how he did Aliens. Of course, for one thing, I will say James Cameron is probably a far better screenwriter, or at least back in the day he was, than M. Night. But anyway, I'm digressing. Like I said, I don't think he should have won Best Director. I don't even think he should have been nominated. It pisses me off. Worst Screenplay, I think you should have labeled that Complaint Against the Village, Razzies. Like I said, jumping on the bandwagon. Now, in conclusion, it's a fun movie, but I think it should have made more money than it did. It was a flop because it only grossed about $72 million, which is kind of a shame. But I have to say, like Unbreakable, I really want to get the DVD for this film, see some special features, see if there's a commentary and stuff. And I also, maybe I probably won't buy it, but I'd actually like to read the children's book that this is based, that he also published, that goes with this novel. It'd be interesting to actually see the differences between the stories. Like I said, this is a fun movie. My rating for the movie is 4 out of 5. If you saw it once when you thought it was going to be a horror movie and you kind of hate it from that, I implore you, give it another shot, knowing that it is more along the lines of fantasy, because Wikipedia has it listed as a mystery fantasy, which I will say that kind of works. It is kind of a mystery at times, and it has that fantasy element, so mystery fantasy fits it more than a horror movie. So, like I said, I implore you, give it another watch knowing it's along that lines instead.